Hello, everyone. How are you? My name is Dr. Amanda Wilson, and I'll be co-hosting this video today with Mr. Bill Moore. He is a
Hello.
dental photography expert, and today we'll be talking about utilizing dental photography in a dental practice to help increase profit and to mitigate risk. I am an orthodontist. I know a lot of you know me, and a lot of you know Bill. So we're super just honored for you to be on our webinar today. This is our first co-hosted webinar. I think we're both going to be doing a series of webinars. Mr. Moore and I have been collaborating actually for some time. We met in a study group, in a dental study group, and we found that we had a mutual understanding and I guess affection for using dental photography as part of helping our clients. I have this checklist if you're interested in it in a PDF that's clickable, and you can download it into your Open Dental or your Dentrix and use it as a screening tool. So this is what I recommend that my dentists use to screen their photos. So this is not just orthodontics. A lot of this is just dental conditions. These are things that can be screened with dental photography over time, and the value grows over time as you start to do this. There's nothing more powerful than putting up several sequential dental photography panels on a large screen in your office over the patient and showing them the progression of disease. Look, you can say, look, the crowding is getting worse over the years, or look, the attrition is getting worse. Let's talk about orthodontics, or let's talk about uprighting that molar so that we can drop an implant in. There's really nothing more that sells a case better than doing this. It's incredible. You really, for the value that you put into it. So anyways, just to recap, this is my contact information. Feel free to message me or contact me. You can jump on my website. There's a ton of more information there. I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Mr. Bill Moore. He's going to go ahead and follow up and introduce himself. And when we close out, we're going to go ahead and jump to the Q&A. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Wilson. As you heard, my name is Bill Moore. I'm with dentalphotographymadeeasy.com, and I've been teaching dental photography since 2013. And I want to share with you some of the things I've learned about how it can really help you in growing treatment acceptance with your patients. So basically what I want to talk about are several things. The reasons for using dental photography in your practice, of course, and the challenge that you have with getting patients to accept the treatments that you offer to them. And really that creates a huge opportunity for you in your practice, which I like to look at things as kind of the glass is half full. And so I want to talk about that opportunity and the business case that drives dental photography as one of the tools you can use to leverage that opportunity. And, you know, when I started teaching this, I found that doctors in general like to analyze things to the nth degree, and you kind of get analysis paralysis. So they never pull the trigger on using dental photography in their practice because there's so many options out there as far as what cameras to buy, lenses, flashes, all that kind of stuff, that they just kind of say, you know what, I'm not going to worry about that. Well, I'm going to kind of whittle all that down for you and help you so that you can make a decision quickly and easily. And then what training to get, because, you know, there are a lot of people who have classes out there that, you know, teach you to do things slightly differently. And I was a professional photographer for a lot of years. So I really, when I looked at this, I said, you know, I don't want dentists to become photographers to be able to do this. They need a tool that they can pick up, make dental images, as Dr. Wilson suggested, show them to their patients and get them to go, okay, let's go forward with this. And then you need a good workflow to use to make sure that everything's done the same way all the time. And I'll talk about that a little bit. And then we'll kind of talk about the next steps that you need to take to get things started. All right, well, let's jump in. What are the reasons for doing dental photography in your practice? You know, Dr. Wilson's alluded to some of them. There's an article in Dental Economics that came out several years ago that has great reasons for doing it. And we're not going to go through all of these, and they came out with 10 in this article, and I added one. If you're going for accreditation with the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry, then you really need to do dental photography. You have to, because you have to document your cases. So that's an 11th topic, and we can talk about that another time or offline. But really, 3 of these 10 items or 11 items are the ones that I want to focus on, and kind of how do you get started quickly? How do you start leveraging dental photography, and how do you start getting the ROI that we talk about? And each one of these points can be a class in itself. So we're just going to focus on these 3. And I mentioned earlier, there's really a challenge that you have out there. And that challenge is, and I've seen this with the dentists that I've worked with, and is that only 1 out of 3 treatments that you're recommending on average are being accepted by your patients. And so really that's, not a good thing for them, because they're letting 2/3 of what you say needs to be done. They're kind of letting that slide for a while. And it's not good for you either, because that's lost revenue to you. And, you got to kind of look at this as a business too. So it's good for the patient if they're accepting, and it's good for you if they're accepting your treatments as well. So glass half full kind of guy, that's a huge opportunity for you. That means that if you can increase from 1 out of 3 to 2 out of 3 yeses from your patient, then you are going to double your practice. So I want you to really just sit and think about that for a second, let that sink in. So if you had a really easy way to get to that 2 out of 3 number, why not take advantage of it? If it's not going to be disruptive to your practice, which it really won't. And so we're going to talk about this. And I thought about how to present this to you. And I thought, well, a story might be the best way. And so there's a doctor in Arizona, Dr. Howard Ferran. He runs the dental website that you might know. And he has a Dentistry Uncensored podcast that he interviewed me on once. And he told me the story of how he implemented dental photography in his practice and what the benefits were. And it was huge. So I thought I'd share that with you today. And he said that, the top 4 reasons that he implemented dental photography in his practice were the 4 that you see here. For documenting cases, as Dr. Wilson said, talked about risk mitigation. So in case you got sued by a patient, that never happens, right? So you have, proof of what you did, why you did it, and all that kind of stuff. So that's important. Dr. Wilson mentioned collaborating with other doctors and specialists and that sort of thing. Even your lab, it's a great way to improve communication in a lot of different ways. But what we're going to focus on today is the marketing part of it, and why you might use dental images to help you get patients to say yes more often. And that's really what Dr. Ferran focused on. So if we talk about that, the way he used his dental images was in chairside consultations, as Dr. Wilson mentioned. So you take a series of photographs at the beginning of the time with your patient, you do your exam, and you come back and you show the images on the screen. So you find some problems. You say, okay, instead of just telling them that they have a cracked tooth and they need, a build up and a crown and whatnot, that you show them on the screen, because they might say a cracked tooth, well, I don't feel any problems, so why would I spend the money to do that right now? Some people are like that, right? I'm sure you understand that and can appreciate it. Well, if you show it to them on a monitor in the operatory, that's huge. That they go, oh, okay, I get it. And you can say, this, you may not feel it now, but that's going to be a bigger problem, in a not too distant future. And it's better and cheaper for you if you take care of it now, because we may not need a root canal or whatever. And then they might say, well, you know what, that crown's going to be on my incisor. How's that going to look? And so you might have a library of before and after images for work you've done for other patients, exact same thing, where you can get the patient to go, oh, you can make it look great. I'm not worried. So yeah, let's go forward with this. So that's kind of how he was leveraging them chair side with his patients and getting them to say yes more often. Then the other thing he was using them for was his website and social media. You got to be careful with this, because you don't want to do this without getting the patient to say yes, giving you permission to use the images. And that I can talk to you about that later too. There's an easy way to do that to kind of legally protect yourself. And you don't want to be doing this with one of these puppies either, because a cell phone might be convenient, but you got to worry about HIPAA, requirements and protecting your patients in that respect too, because you don't want them to come back and say you're using my images inappropriately. But the website thing, just real quickly, is that, when for new patients, they're shopping you online before they pick up the phone to call you and to schedule an appointment. If you have just nothing but stock photography on your website, then that's not nearly as powerful, he found, and other doctors I've talked to have found, as if you have galleries of before and afters of your beautiful work, right? Because then patients go, okay, this guy, this gal gets it. They know their stuff. They're not only a good technician, a good doctor, but they're an artist, which you all are. You have to be, which is why I love working with you guys. So the website's another way to use those. So what was his story? What happened? Well, when he implemented dental photography in his practice, he doubled treatment acceptance very quickly. It went from 33 to 68% in his case. And then over time, over a period of time, he kind of tweaked the process so that he's now up to 82 to 85% treatment acceptance rate. What would that mean to you? What would you be willing to invest in yourself and your staff in order to get your treatment acceptance up to those numbers? You'd be making a whole lot of profit if you were doing that, and you'd be helping your patients a lot more than you might be today, even if you're at the high end of the average treatment acceptance rate, right? So that's kind of the story. Now, what does that mean as far as how that relates to the investment and the ROI? Well, you can get started in dental photography for less than $3,000. And I'd say well under that, by the way, if to buy a camera system, which is a body lens and flash, and to get training, which you can easily do online. So what does that equate for you? That means with a root canal buildup and crown, or substitute those procedures with whatever equals $3,000 for you, you're there. You've paid for your investment. And then the return starts immediately thereafter. Now, it's really important that you get buy-in from your staff because, these cameras aren't very small. They can, the ones that I recommend are probably the smallest that you can get and easily do this, but they can be a little intimidating. And so you have to find the person on your staff who's the right one if you're going to have your staff take it, in addition to yourself. Or you just want some people or person or people on your staff to do it. So you look at who's your photographer, who's out there taking a bunch of selfies with their cell phone, who's posting a lot of things to social media. That's probably the best person to start with. And, really to get over that analysis paralysis, you need to figure out the first two of these three things, right? What camera system to get and what are the best settings to use and how to use the camera system. So I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes and kind of take you through that real quickly. So, when I started doing this, I decided that this had to be an incredibly easy process for doctors, or they weren't going to do it, right? It has to be something that, like I said, you can pick it up and use it and get what you need out of it. And so I only recommend one camera system. There are places you can go where they'll recommend that you can buy anything under the sun, and you can make really nice dental images with other cameras than the one I recommend, but there's a reason I'm going to tell you about that I recommend the one that I do. And then you have to have settings that are bulletproof, that are going to give you consistent, predictable results, because you may have heard stories of doctors, picking up the camera, the flash is too bright, it's not dark enough, things are overexposed, underexposed, not in focus. Well, if you have the right settings, that stuff just doesn't happen. So you need bulletproof settings. And I spent a lot of time figuring that out. Then you have to be able to, in my opinion, dial in the settings once, then save them in the camera. So if you throw a dial off and move a dial or press a button and throw a setting off by accident, you don't have to go, oh my goodness, and you're not getting the results oh my goodness, what did I do wrong? What setting is wrong? What is it supposed to be? And where do I need to go in this vast menu system to change it to what it needs to be? So I'm going to tell you how I get around that in just a second. And then you have to have a process that's definable and repeatable and gives you predictable results. So you're not going to be able to do this effectively. And that's what Dr. Ferran does and all the the people who've been my students are doing. So had to be easy, as I said. So I turned basically the DSLR camera, which that stands for digital single lens reflex camera, into a point and shoot camera just by the settings that I dial in. So you don't have to become a photographer in order to use it. And there's a very, very short learning curve. So which system do I recommend? This is the one I recommend. You need a body, a lens, and a flash. And the body is the Nikon D7200. 85 millimeter macro lens, and macro lens just allows you to make, is a specialized lens, it allows you to make extreme close-up photographs, but also lets you take the extraoral photos or the headshots that you might need to take. And then a Metz ring flash, which actually fires wirelessly. You may have seen some of these camera systems with this big thing right up here on the hot shoe of the camera and wires running down to the flash. Well, this camera has the built-in capacity to fire this flash with the internal workings of the camera, so you don't need all that. You just need some batteries, and I suggest the ones you get with that too. So all of those three things, the body, lens, flash, rechargeable batteries, battery charger, all the accessories you need, I bundled together. And back early this month, I should have checked just before this, but all those things were only $1,900. So for $1,900, you can make that investment, start getting the ROI. And let me talk about this a little bit. Bulletproof settings. So, there's menu after menu after menu of these things. And I put the camera in manual shooting mode. That's what I teach. There's about 14 or so settings that you dial into the camera. And the reason that this is so easy is because this camera, which is why I recommend it, has this dial on top that has these two positions, U1 and U2. So you can dial in all the intraoral settings, save them to position U1, then dial in the extraoral settings or the headshot settings to U2. So if you're doing intraoral images, you just turn that dial to U1. If you're doing extraoral images, you just turn it to U2. Everything is good. If you bump a dial or turn a dial and throw a setting off, you want to take an intraoral image and you see that things aren't coming out right, you just turn it away from U1 and back to U1. Boom, 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 boom. You're good to go. That's why I recommend this camera. And that's why it's so important that you get a tool that's going to make the job easy. And we can talk about that a little bit more. Then you need a defined, repeatable process. So whether you're the only one making the dental images, or you and someone on your staff or members of your staff, I know some doctors who have 4 or 5 people that are making the images at the beginning of an exam. Everyone's doing everything the same way every single time. So everything comes out the same all the time. That's really, really important. And that's what I teach. Okay, so we've kind of talked about some really, really good reasons for using dental photography. Only a few of the long list that I showed earlier. So I think it's a really good thing to do for a lot of reasons. We've talked about it's a great opportunity to increase treatment acceptance with your patients, and that the business case is really solid. I mean, in my mind, I kind of think about, in spite of what I do, who wouldn't want to do this, right? Because the business case is so strong. There's really no need to analyze things to the nth degree, because I can help you pick out some, the things that you need to help you with the training and the workflow. That's all pretty a standardized thing. And so let's kind of talk about next steps here. Well, you can visit my website, dentalphotographymadeeasy.com, and I have some resources there. And if you have questions and don't have time to ask them here, if you scroll down on my homepage, there's a little area called Connect. And there's a button there where you can schedule a free 15-minute telephone conversation with me, and we can talk through whatever issues you have. And I'm hosting a Q&A webinar in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today, same time this one was. And you'll get an email after this webinar sometime tomorrow, and it'll have a link to register for it if you'd like to attend it, so you can do that. So that's what we wanted to present to you today. And Dr. Wilson and I are here to hang out a few minutes and answer any questions you have. I don't know if any have come up. I'll stop sharing my screen here so you can just see us in all our glory. But if there are any questions, we are more than happy to answer them. So just type them into the Q&A section if you have them.
We'll definitely hang out a few minutes. We'll chat back and forth. I'm keeping an eye on the Q&A. If you have any questions, they could be photography questions, HIPAA questions, ortho questions. Go ahead and pop them up. And if you don't, you want to keep them private, no worries. You can email us afterwards. We'll send you a follow-up information. So thanks so much, Bill. That was a great presentation today.
Oh, thank you. You're more than welcome.
It's fantastic. And I think we're going to be recording this. So if anyone missed part of it, we'll be shooting that out to them later. Is that correct?
Yep. There will be a recording available.
Cool. Well, it looks like we don't have any questions, but we still have a lot of people on. So a couple more seconds. If you have any questions, you can ask them live. So it's always really fun. But if not, thank you so much, everyone, today for being on our meeting. We really appreciate it. And we hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you.
Take care.